What's up, y'all? There are two new massive updates to the Robolectra Studio that changed the game completely for you guys. One is a complete creative financing offer generator that gives you all the numbers that you need and the outreach templates to send over to the seller. And the second is a JV deal screener where if the deal passes through that, it will automatically get sent to my buyers immediately. Now, first things first, you have your deal that you want to analyze. You take the Zillow link like normal, you paste it in here and you press analyze deal. You put the asking price, which is just this number right here. For example, $50,000. Then you have a cash offer, a creative offer, and a JV button. So this has changed from just having cash and a somewhat functioning creative. We now have an in-depth creative offer and also a JV option as well. So the cash offer is if you just want to figure out the ARV for your own buyers and your own deals. The creative offer is, of course, if you want to do creative financing. And then the JV is if you want us to bring the buyer and to work on the deal with us. These are the majority of the deals that you guys are going to be setting through the studio. So first things first, we're going to start with creative. So we go here, click creative, then go to continue. So you do not even need to comp creative deals. This is what makes it a super interesting strategy because it's all about the cash flow for the investor, not the discount of the properties nearby. So first things first, you want to get the monthly rent, and to find that, you can just Google Zillow rent estimate and then put the address in there. It's super simple. Or you can just go to the Zillow listing right here, scroll down, and a lot of the times it'll tell you a rent estimate. So for this one, it's $1,460, which is actually very strong for a property this cheap. So you'd come here and put the rent into here, and then the monthly taxes and the monthly insurance. Make sure it's monthly, not annual. You scroll down here, and it'll tell you the estimated payment, $76 for taxes, $18 for insurance. So 76 and 18. So now we have different offers to give to the seller. Since the rent is so strong on this property, even 20% down is a solid offer. If it was lower, it would look like this. It would say a strong, a solid, and a workable. But for this example, it's $1,460. So it gives us these three different offers here. One at 5% down, one at 10% down, and one at 20% down. And before I go farther into this, I want to explain a little bit about what seller financing is and how it's different than just buying a cash transaction. With seller financing, it's what it sounds like. The seller is the one who's financing it rather than the bank. So you pay the seller directly over time. So here's exactly how it works. The buyer and the seller will agree on a price and they will put down a down payment that will go straight to the seller. For example, 5, 10, 15, maximum 20. You normally don't want to go over that. And then they will pay them monthly, basically like a mortgage. So here's how it works from the buyer's perspective. Them and the seller will agree on a price and they will put a down payment that goes directly to the seller. This doesn't go to a bank or anything like this. It goes directly to the seller. So it'll be 5, 10, 15. You normally don't want to go over 20% down, and you will pay them monthly, basically just like a mortgage. But again, instead of paying the bank, it goes directly to the seller. They hold what's called the note until it's paid off. This is called a promissory note, and it's just saying that you agree to pay them this amount of money per month until the house is paid off, or the balloon date. A balloon is what the seller gets paid in full years down the line, because most of these sellers aren't going to want to wait 15, 20, even 30 years for you to pay off the entirety of the property, but they will wait 5, 7, sometimes even 10 years. And so you will put what's called a balloon date in the contract on these seller financing deals that the buyer agrees to pay them whatever's still owed by the 5-year mark. Why is this so valuable for the buyer is there is lower money down, typically lower payments, and there's no bank involved, no qualifying, and no credit checks. This would be an example of a good deal from a buyer's perspective. They have it under contract at $95,000. They put down between 10 or 15%, which is $12,000. They pay them something like $350 a month at 0% interest, and 0% interest deals are out there. My first ever wholesale deal was a 0% interest, 8% down seller financing deal, but anything between 0 to 4, maybe 5% are good seller financing deals. And a balloon date of 6 years, you want to aim for 5 years minimum with as many as you can get, but typically between the 5 to 10 is what you should aim for. This means that the full balance is due to the seller at year 6. This is where the buyer will most likely refinance the property and pull out money and pay off the seller and then just have the house. Or they will sell the property, get all the cash flow they had before, a little bit of profit, and then also be able to pay off the seller their remaining balance. And you might be wondering, why would a seller even ever agree to this? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every single person wants this, but they are out there. I have done a bunch of seller financing deals, and so have my students. So why a seller would say yes is they own a house and it's free and clear, which means they have 100% equity in the property. They don't need a lump sum in that moment. They've kind of wanted to be a landlord, but just don't want to deal with having a tenant. And this way you can agree to pay them, $300, $400, even $500 a month if it works, and they can just be a completely passive landlord, like guaranteed guaranteed via contract, and they don't have to deal with tenants at all. And they'll just get steady monthly income instead of a big lump sum upfront, which some people do prefer. And almost always they will actually make more than a cash sale just over time, because the buyers are offering over asking price or at least listing price a lot of these times. And there's interest on these payments, which means that they're paying interest and principal every time they pay them every single month. And again, why a buyer would want this is low down payment, of course. Tiny monthly payment equals huge cash flow when they rent these properties out. No bank approval needed, which just makes it an easy, quick close. And the one catch here is the balloon. So the property needs to be refinanced or sold by the deadline. That's the only trade. But this is what the buyer worries about, not you. So now that you understand a little more about what seller financing actually is, here are the different offers that you can make to the seller. And this calculator helps you gauge how valuable it would be to a buyer. This is where you can adjust your assignment fee on the property. For example, you can make it $4,000, you can make it all the way up to $10,000. It's just defaulted at $5,000 for all the deals here. And this calculator down here at the bottom will help you play with the different terms and see what would be valuable for an investor. The deal will either come out as strong, solid, workable, or walk. So for example, let's just say we did 15% down at 5% interest with a 5-year balloon. That would be a solid deal. Then you could press continue. It would show you all your offer right here. And you could say save this deal. It'll go into your deals tab, and it'll give you different outreach templates to text, email, and call the agent about this. And believe it or not, this was the exact text that I actually sent to an agent that ended up being a $4,000 assignment fee when it was my first deal. It literally came from a text. I didn't even call them. There's videos on my Instagram about this. And I don't recommend doing that. I recommend calling them first, then texting them if they don't answer, and also sending this email as well. And again, most sellers aren't going to want this. Most are going to want the upfront capital upfront. But deals that have been on market for a long time, let's say over 100 days or even over 150 days, they might be interested in taking this because people have just been lowballing them over and over again. You can even come in at asking price or above asking, but just do it on payments. And you might be wondering if the contracts are different than a traditional cash sale, and they actually are. They are very different, but the studio just keeps it as simple as possible. We now have 4 different options for you to generate contracts. You have a cash purchase and sale agreement, the seller financing purchase and sale agreement, the assignment of contract, which is between you and the end buyer, and a JV agreement. So this is just splitting a wholesale fee with another wholesaler. So for example, on the seller financing agreement, you would just click this, enter in information about the seller, the buyer, the property address, and the deal terms, and it would generate the contract for you all inside of the studio. And if you get a verbal agreement or a contract signed with a seller at a workable or solid or even strong deal, there is an extremely high chance that we as Real Venture can get that deal sold, because creative deals fly off the shelf. But you can also just get this deal under contract yourself and market it in a Facebook group. I want you guys to do that as well. This way you can find your own buyers, build up your own buyers list, and become an independent wholesaler and net 100% of the assignment fee. Now the second edition, the JV tab, what we wanted to do was have less deals that were approved by the underwriter and just waiting on buyers from our end, because we can't force people to buy, mediocre deals. So what we wanted to do is make the deal screening a lot stricter, which is, a little bit annoying, less deals pass, but any deal that passes, it's very, very high likelihood that it's going to get sold to one of our buyers. And we're so confident in this deal screener that we don't actually need our professional underwriter to even look at it anymore. If it passes this deal screener, it goes immediately to our buyers that are actively looking at it. For that same deal as before, I just press continue, and this is the whole JV deal screener. I'm gonna add a video in here. By the time that this video is released, there should actually be a video in here just giving you a small tutorial, but this tells you in just plain text how to comp and use this tool. You'll put the subject property, you'll click which one of these you have the photos for, and then it has as is comps. So this is just same condition as the subject property. So if your subject property needs a lot of repairs, comp it with properties that need a lot of repairs. If your subject property is turnkey or near it or has tenants in it, comp it with other properties that are turnkey. So in here you only need 4 as is comps, and the deal screener will tell you if it's incomplete or completed. Obviously this is incomplete because I didn't fill anything out about the property, but it'll tell you the missing information, the missing photos, and how the deal math actually works here. And you can save your progress since there's a decent amount to fill out in here. If you are working on it and you need to step away for a second, you can just save your progress and it'll save for you, and you can just come right back to it. But any deals that pass this deal screener will be able to get submitted directly to our buyers, and we don't even have our underwriter look at it anymore. This will result in more deals failing at the submission point and less deals failing at approved by underwriter but waiting for the buyer demand. This way you can get quicker no's and actually focus on the best deals. This criteria and math is constantly changing, and we will update it on the studio side. You don't have to worry about it at all. I'm super stoked for these new changes and the hundreds of you guys that are actually using this software and analyzing deals, making offers, and getting deals under contract. If you're watching this video but not already part of the community or logged into the software, there's a link in the description of this video that gives you the link to access it.